I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem.
That was the president on last night, in fact, about his refusal on why he hasn't been to the Texas border to take a first-hand look at the escalating border crisis. Now, Governor Rick Perry, as you'd imagine, he didn't have any such problems. He's been very critical of the president's and his administration's handling of what has been called, and I think fairly, humanitarian crisis when we're talking about the border. President Perry, they met with each other for about a half an hour yesterday. Perry has been a highly vocal about the president's mishandling to do this, especially since he was in Texas just yesterday. The president was for a couple of fundraisers. In fact, as we'll get to in a second, Mr. Perry says this is the equivalent of this president's Katrina. Now, even Democrats have been sounding in on the president's hesitance to get to the border. Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas said, "When I saw, and I hate to use the word bizarre under the circumstances, when I saw that he was shown playing pool in Colorado, drinking a beer with the Colorado governor, and he can't even go 240 plus miles to the Texas border, everyday children from Central America, they make this trek here to the U.S. many times alone. Most of these kids set out from their home countries, not of Mexico, we'll tell you the significance of that, but from countries like Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. And authorities say normally about 6,000 to 8,000 children pour into the states every year. The number has only grown recently, and officials say the number was up to about 52,000 in the last 6 months. That's not just children, but a lot of those are kids. Now, most of the children, they're fleeing home countries to get away from unimaginable problems. I'm talking about huge street gang issues, especially if you read the Times today in that heartbreaking story, drugs, political instability, the sexual assaults of children in many of these places are at unbelievable levels. And in June, 32 children, they were murdered in Honduras, and that brought the number of children under the age of 18 killed just since January of last year to more than 400. Now, many Republicans, they've been highly critical of the kids involved in this crisis, saying the U.S., they ought to just send them home.
And we can have Marco Rubio and Rand Paul going around saying, what are you going to do? Deport them all? Deport them all? Just get them in. And in a matter of years, they'll be voting Democrat and collecting welfare.
Why not take all of these kids and drop them in all of these wealthy counties in Washington and the suburbs of D.C.? Let's drop them there. Let's have the policymakers actually have to live with the results of their policy.
I think what you need to do is ask the Guatemalan government where they want these kids dropped off when the buses bring them back down there.
Okay, so we don't have rocket scientists necessarily across the board with solutions to this. And I won't lie, I'll see if the table does, but there are no easy answers on this thing, okay? And I can tell you how it doesn't really matter, but the fingerprints go back to the previous administration where they passed legislation that we're starting to see it bear itself out, especially in ramped up numbers recently. But for some of the lawmakers who are very free and easy about quoting the Bible and getting Christian on you, okay, and talking about the good Lord and everything else, they're very cavalier about taking kids from the most vulnerable areas and just throwing them on the bus and sending them back, including like Mr. Rogers. If they did read the good book here and they decided to go on a particular passage, they'd learn that you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and I can keep going on here, but, you know, feeding the hungry and clothing the naked and all that, that is part of our faith as well. But, not to get biblical on everybody here, I do think, let's start with the Democrats. What is the president thinking? I'm sorry. He had two choices, Jonathan. I get why he didn't want to go to the border, okay? That played into the other side's hands here. He says it's a photo op. I'll get into that in a second. But he didn't have to go to two fundraisers in Austin and Dallas. So either he goes to fundraisers and shows his face there and tries to make it his narrative to say, let me tell you, you know, I'm here, but let me tell you who's not here when it comes to making solutions. The other side, and he could go chapter and verse. He actually has the facts on his side. But what does he do? He goes to the fundraisers, and then he'll meet with Perry, elevating Perry, and not show his face near the border. For the life of me, I don't get the politics of that.
But why does he have to go to the border? It's the President of the United States. He's
got
NSA satellites showing him the border.
Like
why do you have to go?
Do you know why?
He knows what's going on. It's been going on for decades.
We live in stuff like this. in TV on one channel
But
around
he
the
couldn't
clock.
go, Richard. He couldn't.
Then he shouldn't have gone to the fundraisers,
Well, okay,
Dominic.
okay, but when have you ever met in your life a politician that cancels fundraisers?
A lot of times, especially if they
I
think the
don't know
guy's
any.
toxic.
I don't
If they
know
think
any,
somebody's
especially the
racist,
president.
something.
During a
Especially the
disaster or
president.
something big happens,
How about
we've canceled elections right
how
after
about
9/11.
a
but-
politician is trouble? Okay,
That's
How about-
true. That's
okay,
true. When a
please.
politician's in trouble. But he's the president of the United States. He doesn't have to go because they're telling him to go. He's a man that was elected on, he said he could do many things at the same time. Remember that?
Yeah, but the president.
And he's deported more
his
illegal
Homeland
immigrants than any other
Security,
president.
his
I mean,
Homeland Security guy has been there now 6 times to the border. I don't understand. I know you feel passionately about it, but I don't get it why he has to go.
Absolutely, he should go. I
Yes,
mean, just
it's
like
a
the
talking point.
president
It's a
goes
talking
to
point.
Afghanistan and Iraq to visit the troops when the troops were there.
Right.
Well, he just actually
on his schedule, on his.
The point is, he goes there to show them support. He is the commander in chief.
Right.
Same thing. He should be at the border to show support for those border agents who are fighting every day
Why
to
now?
enforce the
Why
laws.
now?
Because
Why now?
at any point in time during his
It's called
presidency,
a midterm election. It's
It's
a
an
booby trap.
important issue
The
to
moment
this
he
country.
goes there, the Republicans are going to say, "We told you he's weak. You see, he's only coming after we demanded that he come."
If he didn't go, if he canceled the fundraiser, then he'd have to cancel his fundraisers in Chicago
Right,
because there's a
right,
crime wave going
right,
on there.
right.
Then he'd have to cancel his
Right.
fundraiser. Like eventually they would find a reason for him to cancel every appearance
Right.
that he's ever going to make.
He
Right.
could have gone. There is a crisis there, whatever anybody wants to say. It's not that, hey, it's been going on forever and now all of a sudden talking about the numbers are real. They're ramping up. We don't know what we're doing with these kids. He's trying to get Congress to give him $4 billion.
plan ahead.
If he wants his funding, be a big boy. Stop telling everybody how tough it is. I know it's tough. I know he's got an idiotic Congress on his hands who is literally from day one. I know before you even say it, Dominic, how do we get this guy unelected? I get all that. But you know what? The job was hard. He knew it was hard. And instead of just saying they're not playing nice and I'm tired of this and I'm not for photo ops are part of a presidency. Presidents
true.
know how to use
That's true.
imagery to their advantage. We all made fun of Mission Accomplished. We made fun of it only because it backfired on him because they screwed up. If it worked, we all would have been like, that's terrific. And he would have put his flight
But he
suit on
looks,
for
but he
Halloween.
looks strong now, Richard, by not going.
He does
I
not.
If he
think he
went,
does.
Richard, it would be throwing a softball
This
to the
is
Republicans.
The problem with Obama. He
See,
doesn't do
look
things
how
he's
much he's
supposed to do,
smiling.
like
He
meet with
knows.
Congress.
Business.
Listen, he wants Congress to do all this stuff, but he won't meet with them. He's on record.
Oh,
of
he
being,
won't meet with them.
on being a president.
He won't
that's
meet with
met
Congress.
least with Congress.
Speaker
Out of any
Boehner,
president out there.
can Speaker Boehner get his fellow Republicans to do something in Congress?
Sure.
Of course
and
he
he
can.
has.
So then
get
how
the votes on
he can't get the
anything.
votes
Oh,
on
that's
anything.
not true.
That's
He
not
has.
fair.
Oh,
He'll tell you,
Democratic votes
he'll tell
power
you
with
they're getting
Republicans.
ready impeachment proceedings to sue the president right now. They're really hard at work here. All right, well, one thing though, Jonathan and Andrew, there's a story he actually has to tell, which is, do you know why they're coming? In 2008, under which president, Andrew? Legislation was passed so that if you came from a non-border country like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, you could not stay here indefinitely, but at least attempt to be reunited with families here and go through the legal process. Well, that policy that president did, he's dealing with the ramifications and a Congress that won't come up with comprehensive immigration reform. It's not even his fault. But he allows them, as usual, to define him as some little sissy who can't deal with the problem. He's afraid to go to the border. And whether it's unfair or not, and it is, he's allowed himself yet again to be defined by the other side. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, first of all, I don't think this sounds a lot like the economy. You know, Obama gets blamed for the economy not being stronger than it should be. Meanwhile, many times we've had to point out that the economy that he inherited was the one that was in free fall. That wasn't his fault. That was Bush's fault. Who gets all the blame for this condition of the economy going forward? It's another example of trying to blame the last guy. I think you're right in what you say, that this law is the one that facilitated this.
And how many people
migrants
know
over the
this? Maybe
border.
less than 1/2%.
I'm
And
sorry?
why?
Absolutely.
How many people in America actually know this? Maybe the 5 of us, and I can find 30 more people. Okay. My point is, it's incumbent on him to tell we the people what's going on and what we're going to do about it. He thinks that's a photo op sometimes. This whole no drama, which I personally
He
like,
thinks
is a
going to
way.
the border is a photo op.
It's more than that, Andrew.
He wants something. He wants to do something about
Come
it.
on,
and
you
he's
work for
using this as an
Democrats trying to get
and he's
elected?
using this as an argument for
Are they doing
immigration reform
cartwheels
that he
that
hasn't been
this
able to get
president's
passed.
been their greatest standard bearer? Come on.
It depends on where you're at. And unfortunately, the president gets wrapped into Congress and the negative approval ratings and dysfunction of Washington. So right now, nobody's running on being with the president of Washington. Everybody's running as if, hey, Andrew, look at Andrew Cuomo, look at Chris Christie. They're running on results-driven, the things they've done locally, and they're not running on Washington.
The president's approval rating is at 41%.
It's even lower than that, but all right, yeah.
Right. Well, this was just a couple days ago, so if it's dropping fast, which shows that people are not in this country are not happy with the job that he's doing. Even the perception or the reality, either way, they're not happy with the job he's
You
doing.
do agree, it's 5 times better than Congress.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't say much.
If you think we got problems, though, in the Mideast, that situation going from bad to worse here. We will go there next, where tensions are rising as Israel increases air assaults on the Gaza Strip. Just how far could this crisis escalate? We're going to ask our panel and our guests when we come back straight ahead.